Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight on what you can do with a lot of this information that's out there that at sometimes is more geared for you just to click on the article, and it provides little to no substance at all. We got some, it's just going to be a solo show today. We're going to be breaking some stuff down. I'm going to do a little bit of some sales tactics, kind of some market updates and everything else that I'm seeing out there in the freight market and everything else. And, you know, at the end of the day, you guys, I just want you guys to find value in everything that we're doing out here. It's why I proudly fly the American flag behind me every single day, is because I want to help each and every one of you guys live the American dream like I am at this time. And frankly, we need more best practices that are out here. I'm all about moving this industry forward in the right direction. And my partners over at VHub are also committed to that, you guys. Whether you're a broker, carrier, or a shipper alike, at the end of the day, you guys, you need access to trailers. So what we need to do is think creatively right now. When the market shifts and everything else that happens, utilize these tools that are out there. You can't always fall back on, this is the way that we've always done things. And what we need to do right now is look at, how do you create a drop trailer pool if you're a broker? Or most importantly, if you're a small carrier or an owner operator, what do you do if your trailer breaks down or is in the shop? Like, you shouldn't have to shut your business down. And on VHub right now, you guys, the best part about it is you get paid to do all this stuff. So what they're working on right now is they got some brand new dry vans out in Paragould, Arkansas, as well as Glade Spring, Virginia, going up to Orting, Washington, and you get paid $1,550 US to move that. That's on top of the freight that you find to put in the back of that trailer, you guys. They also have San Diego going up to Spokane, Washington. You get paid $600 to do this as well. It's a heated van. And then they also have a reefer out in Clearfield, Utah, going to Henderson, Colorado, $700 to move that trailer. You know, and again, you guys, that's on top of the freight that you can put in the back of it. So again, it's a great way for you to help offset fuel costs and all the rising repair costs and everything else that are out there. So hit them up, you guys, vhubapp.com. My friend Xavier Campos and my friend Stacy Steen, they'll both be in the audience. Hit them up. Just let them know the Freight Coach sent you. Let me see here. Got some shout outs in the audience. Sunny Sharma, good morning. Orange Shirt Gang. Sunny Sharma is the OG member of the Orange Shirt Gang. Bill McIntyre, let's fucking go. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us here today. Drew Driscoll, orange shirt for the Vols. Let's get it today, folks. I said, you know, Tennessee might as well, man. We can sing old Rocky Top, right? Zach Williams, good morning, Freight fam. Let's get it. Zach's with SPI Logistics, you guys. If you want to become a freight agent, take control of your financial future, hit him up, spi3pl.com. Nicole Mitchell, good fucking morning to you as well. Thanks. Thank you, Nicole. Let's go. Dedicated Trucking. Lewis, what's up, my dude? How's 75 hard coming along for you? You still rocking it out? Keep it up, brother. Let me see, you guys. We're at day 117 already of the Freight Coach tally. It's 117th live show, and it's also 117th reminder that there's a truck parking issue out there as well as a facilities issue. Now, obviously, I am very aware that there are multiple sides to this story about drivers not being able to use the restrooms. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be one of those facilities that doesn't allow drivers to use the restroom, you should at least let them drop their trailer and leave and go find the facilities and everything else that's out there and then come back when it's all done. Also, diesel went down, which is a welcome sight, but it's still a slap in the face high of $4.96 a gallon nationwide. That's out there. We're up $1.58 year over year at this time. You know, again, I get all this information from the EIA, you guys, EIA.gov. Hit it up. And then again, like, what can you do with this information? Most importantly, like, this is going to help you as we're in bid season, or hell, it's a rebid right now for holiday freight and everything else. This is going to help you bid more accurately by knowing what the fuel surcharge is and everything else and the national averages. So you can take this information, give it over to your customers and actually use it. Let me see here. We're going to do, so, you know, like right now, you guys, with holiday freight and everything that goes on out there, like, obviously there's going to be an increase in theft. And, you know, today's Tuesday. Right, yeah, today's Tuesday. And I would always do, like, when I first started creating content, it was like a training topic Tuesday. is what I would always do out there, those short little 2-minute video clips. And now as kind of everything's grown out, my businesses have grown. I'm kind of condensing and combining a lot of my content in there. And since I go live every day for 30 minutes, I want to start tying in some of those stuff when I do solo episodes. And, one of those things so I have a situation that we're dealing with right now with a client of mine about a driver who went and got loaded and then didn't scale out until they were about 200 miles away from the shipper. And turns out that the driver's overweight and the driver's refusing to move, which, as a broker, you have very limited things that you can say in those situations, because at the end of the day, you can't ask a driver to move illegally if we know that they're heavy. I think that as a way to kind of get around that, I always ask for them to get scale tickets. Most drivers scale out, so like these situations aren't common, but when you do find yourself in this situation, it makes you look back and say, like, what could I do differently? And I think in these situations, especially if you're dealing with freight that is pushing the limit as a whole. And yes, we looked at the scale ticket. We couldn't adjust the tandems. And for those of you who are out there that are watching this, who are like, what the hell is a tandem? It's on the trailer. They can adjust the axle placement on the trailer and slide it back or forward to for weight disbursement purposes and everything else out there. So, when that's not an option, when you're pushing that and that the weight is going to be pushing max, I always ask the driver to go get a scale ticket prior to departing the city that the shipper is located in, because again, there's limited opportunities and that we can do out there outside of sending a truck over there to take a couple of pallets off the trailer. But again, you guys need to look into these things because these are very real scenarios that you're going to find yourself in. And it's like, what are your options in those instances? Unfortunately, I've been through this a lot in my career, but you need to be prepared for these moments. Don't wait for these situations and be like, holy shit, what do we do now? Listen to what I just said. Go back and rewind that if you need to when the replay is up there, and see, like, get an SOP in place out there, especially if you know that these shipments are going to be heavy or close to max weight. I always ask the driver to scale out. Most times, a lot of those drivers do that. But in the event that we find ourselves in this situation, let's not just assume. All right. Let's have that out there, have it spelled out on the rate confirmation. And most importantly, you guys have these conversations with drivers on the front end. All right. This is how there's a lot of friction that's built up between brokers and carriers, is like the shit that gets slid in there or not brought up prior to booking. I'm a firm believer of brutal transparency, getting ahead of a lot of these things and having these conversations on the front end. So do that. And then, let's look at some market updates and everything we find out there. Let me see here. Moises, good morning, sir. Thank you for joining me. I love it, man. Lewis, keep going, dude. 20 days. Laura, good to see you back out here. Xavier Campos, good morning, Freight Coach Nation. And that's the thing. And we, Laura, that's the problem, is it's not just a you thing, like I've made those assumptions, but I've also learned the hard way enough in my career that sometimes it's just a lot easier to think of these things on the front end. And again, I'm going to start putting a lot of this stuff into the live show. And if you guys ever have any sales or operations questions for the transportation industry, DM me on LinkedIn, and then I'll answer them on the show, or drop them in the comments here during the live show. And especially when I roll solo, I'll be able to get to them more frequently and everything. But let's look at some market reports. So obviously right now, there was the first snowfall up in the Sierra Nevadas this year already. So you want to start looking at this stuff right now. What does that mean? Chains, for example. Let's start talking about that. Any of that freight that you guys have running out through the mountains and everything out west, make sure those drivers are coming prepared with chains out there. And especially if you're dealing with commodities now that are at risk of being frozen, you might want to start looking at reefer as an option to run it as a temperature controlled load. So it's like, let's pull up Salt Lake City, Utah, for example, out there. It is a slightly tight capacity. There's 7 loads to 8 trucks that are out there right now. And, again, this is in the reefer market that's out there. So, that's something to take into consideration. And it looks like anything heading into Nevada is, it's pretty loose. Outbound freight in Nevada, down in Arizona. And then if you got some miles behind it, and one of those drivers looking to head out to the Georgia market, South Georgia, South Alabama, North Florida, it looks like it's going into a solid market that's out there. And then also with outbound Seattle, in the van market, it looks like it is very loose. So there is 3 loads to 9 trucks that are out there right now. And that market is about to flip. All right. There is going to be a ton of freight moving out of the Pacific Northwest. And that is something that you're going to want to take into consideration as you're bidding out freight here for peak season and everything else, because it's harvest season out there in the Pacific Northwest, and that includes Idaho as well, you guys, and then some parts of Utah and northern Nevada. They'll have a ton of produce shipments that are coming out there, onions, potatoes, everything is it's coming into prime season. That's going to immediately fold right into Christmas tree season and everything out of the Pacific Northwest. So keep that in mind. And just because it's loose right now, that market could literally flip by the day at this moment. So pay attention to that as you guys are bidding out freight here. All right. That is going to be it for some slight market updates that I'm seeing out there. And let me see here. Andrew Teal, what's up, brother? He says that's a fair assumption, to scale because you were a driver. Fair to assume. And yeah, and that's the thing is I would always, it's just like my thoughts on a lot of things. I would rather be prepared. I would rather have something and not need it than need something and not have it. But that's just me, and I'm fucking OCD to the gore. Let me see here. What else do we got? All right. First article we are going to break down. This one is from fleetowner.com. And this one is mitigating fleet cost hikes through leasing. This is one of those situations right now. And actually it's kind of a tie into who my guest was on my podcast. A new episode came out, James Courier. He's with Finlock. And, a lot of it was, what do you do if you are one of those owner operators who are now a carrier that went out, bought their truck, bought their trailer, and it's at an elevated cost and everything. And you can't necessarily pull out equity or anything else in it. And so refinancing is one of those situations that a lot of people look into right now, especially as the market continues to shift. And we talked about that. We talked about strategies and tactics and kind of what you can do if you have excess equipment rolling around out, or not even rolling, sitting out there right now. And essentially it's like, it's got to make money. And, obviously a shameless plug for my sponsor VHub, put that stuff on there right now and they can find people to use it. And you can make a little bit of money on that. But, talking about that, this is a tactic or a strategy that a lot of people come into the market with is they buy a truck and then they get in and then they lease a trailer. They rent it out and they lease it. And that's kind of how they get their start in the industry. And this goes on to say in this article, this is from fleetowner.com. And then it's according to a report from the ATRI, the American Transportation Research Institute. The total marginal cost for trucking grew by 12.7% in 2021 to $1.85 a mile. The two biggest contributors to this were fuel, which was 35.4% higher in 2021 than 2020, and repair and maintenance, which were 18.2% higher in that. Have no direct control over fuel costs. They should consider the way trucks are spec'd, operated, and maintained to get best fuel economy as possible. Contributing to the increased cost of repair and maintenance is in the parts shortage, which led to higher parts pricing, higher repair costs for complex equipment, and an increased focus on maintenance of offsetting purchase and or leasing declines that are out there. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any short-term improvements in this. In regards to the part shortage, and then trucks will only get more complex, especially considering the upcoming round of EPA emission standards. With operational costs at a 15-year high, the benefits of full service leasing are greater than those for two reasons. Fleet leasing can minimize costs because leasing companies have economies of scale that they can use to make repairs more cost effective. Fleets have a set price of maintenance and repair that they can budget and plan for instead of having to deal with the volatility of today's pricing. And then they can also get an opportunity to obtain newer equipment as the lease term allows for new equipment upon renewal. And then it also goes on to say fleets benefit from the leasing company's expertise as to which specs works best for duty cycles, and then it is, talking about the giving today's high operating costs, considering the benefits of this shift towards an ownership model to a leasing model to reduce costs and lock in a big portion of your operating costs. And that's the thing is it's like, leasing equipment isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm of the mindset, and again, this is just my personal opinion on things. I would rather own it. I personally would rather own it myself and everything else. But, again, I know people who lease cars and they lease it for that exact same, like they're completely cool with having a $400 or $500 a month lease payment on a vehicle, knowing that they're never going to pay it off and that that's all that they want, So again, I think a lot of it is personal preference that's out there. And again, like I think if you're getting started in business, because again, it's extremely cap intensive to start a business in the transportation industry, not in every industry, but again, as you grow and like, again, there's great resources that are out there to where you can get in the door, you can buy a truck, you can lease on to a company and everything else that comes with it, or you can go out, buy a truck, lease a trailer, rent a trailer, however that looks, and you can start booking your own freight direct, but again, it's like when you start looking at the overall cost structure of running a truck, and, you got to think, you got the telematics portion of things. And then especially if you use a dispatch service that to help you find loads and everything else, like there's a lot of money that you're paying out before you even pay for your truck at that point. And those are the things, it's always going to be the importance of if you stay in business is, in business, it's knowing your costs, knowing your overhead. Like I have my monthly operating budget that I go off of. And it has everything listed. And again, I'm not comparing my overhead expenses in my company to that of a trucking company because I know those are far greater, but the structure of it all is the exact same. Like I have my insurance out there because I do carry business insurance for everything, because I have a lot of fucking equipment inside of my office and I have all of it insured. I also have my rent for my office, for my studio here, for the office that I rent out, the office space. And, and then other little things like this, like this platform that I utilize, paying to put stuff out there on YouTube and the podcast and everything like that costs money every single month. And granted, it pales in comparison to a fuel bill or a repair bill, but I have that all budgeted out. So I know what I have to hit every single month just to break even. And then I also know how to price my services based off of that to ensure that I have a profit margin, and it would be a way of looking at it where it's like, yes, leasing from one perspective might be a solid opportunity for you to start out in the end. But I'm just of the mindset where it's like, this is how you play the markets, like if you look out there, and we've talked about this on the show in the past, if you look at, like Night Swift, for example, like they were talking last year, they were selling equipment when the market was high. And now that the used market and like the new market is starting to drop, that's when they're going to start buying and reinvesting. So they're going to buy low and sell high, which I know it's always easier said than done. But I think like that's the way to look at things is get in there and get your stuff paid off. I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life or anything like that, but I choose to run my companies debt free. I choose to I will pay all of everything before I pay myself because I feel like it's a short-term sacrifice for the long-term reward. And a lot of the drivers that I talk to and everything else that own their own equipment outright, that's how they navigate through any freight market that's out there because they know they're going to have their high years and their low years, but it all kind of averages out. And the only way that they're able to do that is by paying off all of their stuff. And, and that's been a big personal thing of mine. Because if I'm operating my business as a debt-free environment, my personal life as well, because, that's a separate fucking entity in its own right in the eyes of the U.S. government, is I'm paying off all of my debt. I just have a little bit of student loans left. And I'm going to be out of debt because of that. And then except for, the house payment, but that's fine. Like I can justify that, but I'm going to go through living my life debt free. Like that's my goal with that. And I want to see, like, it's good that there's other opportunities that, for you're getting into business and you can look at that, but I always see how you can get out of debt faster, and then owning your equipment outright. And I think like that's just the best strategy. And, and again, there's going to be people out there who are like, no, use the bank's money, leverage the bank's money if you can. I'm not here to argue how anybody else chooses to run their business. I'm just letting you know how I choose to operate mine and what I think is the best strategy for myself. And what I will be doing for all of my companies is working in a debt-free environment because it fucking makes life a little bit less stressful. Not completely stress-free, but a little bit stressful, a little less stressful. Again, hit it up, fleetowner.com, mitigating fleet cost hikes through leasing. That's out there. And again, that is everything that I'm going to put up here for the articles that we break down, you guys. I will put the links to those articles on the Coffee with the Freight Coach audio only replay, as well as on the YouTube channel for the video replay on there as well. And if you guys are over there checking out those replays a little bit later, just do me a favor, hit subscribe and share this out there if you see value in it. Andrew Teal says the fastest way to raise lower head in a market like this, lower head by increasing miles per gallon. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, man. You got to look at everything right now. And then knowing your costs and trucking is important. If you can, if you lease, you can control the expenses and get replacement units easier. Now, again, like those are all fair points. That is a very fair point, is you can look at it that way as well. And I'm actually going to be having I think it might be Friday's episode or next week's episode. I can't remember, but I had a guy from a truck dealership that I met out there. We talked a lot about this stuff and kind of what to do when you're buying equipment and everything else. But second article. So this is from the JOC, and this is written by my friend Eric Johnson. He was on the show last week. I'll probably be talking to him in person here at the JOC Inland Conference, which I'll be at next week. If you're at that conference next week in Chicago, and just do me a favor, hit me up, you guys. I'm going to be doing my live show from there, and I'll have my mic set up out there. I'll have a secondary mic, and I'd love to talk to as many people as possible when we're doing the live show. This article, though, is Convoy wades into visibility market with new tools. It goes on to talk about freight broker Convoy is taking Convoy is taking a stab at providing enhanced visibility into loads as it manages for shippers, as well as performance of the facilities, which is carrier network interacts. It launched a new product called Hi-Fi Visibility that is aimed at incorporating driver location data from its app. For truckers with data, it collects via drop and hook trailers from the Convoy Go product, as well as integrations with a number of ELDs. The intent is to provide more context to an estimate to ETAs and delay notifications, as well as alert shipper customers of what, if anything, Convoy operations can do about a delay. And that includes impact of facility delays that some visibility providers can get insight into. ETAs are important, but that's not always enough depth for shipment execution. Mitch Violet, Senior Director of Product Management at Convoy, told JOC, knowing that a truck is 10 minutes away doesn't tell you there's a 2-hour delay to unload previous shipments. Okay. Sorry. Providing its own visibility product is an attempt to differentiate itself around a highly competitive and fragmented freight brokerage market, one which shipper customers tend to rely standalone visibility to go predictive ETAs across the board. This is differentiating capability for us. We want our customers. Okay. I get it. It's a good attempt out there, but again, I feel like it's it's another one of those things. Hey, some companies are going to view it as it's cheaper to build it than it is to go through somebody else out there. And, I think that visibility is something that is always going to be of the utmost importance. But I think that, my personal opinion on visibility is as long as most drivers know about it on the front end, they don't really fight back on it. And again, it's like, I think that's just one piece of the puzzle, though. It's all about how are you managing the life cycle of the shipment as a whole, because saying you have tracking is one thing. And to their direct point, knowing a truck is 10 minutes away doesn't always tell you there's a 2-hour delay. You want to know how you can avoid that conversation entirely? Pick up the fucking phone and call the driver. To me, it's like having visibility is just one piece of it. Having visibility is a value add. It's definitely makes life a lot easier. But if you're not talking to drivers, you're never going to know the full story. You're never going to know the full context of what's going on that's out there. That's why when I was a broker, I talked to drivers directly, and I wasn't going to blow up their fucking cell phones and everything else. If I would have in-depth conversations with them, you guys. It's called a carrier sales representative for a reason. It's not a carrier posting rep. It's not assign it, set it, and forget it. Like, develop a fucking relationship with these drivers. Like, these are human beings as well. I just think that when it comes down to it, you need to go further than, I put the driver on tracking. Congratulations. All right. Technology doesn't work all the time either. That's why there's that thing in your pocket that you can pick out and start dialing on. Let's see. Benchmarking capability to come. It says that their product won't compete with multimodal visibility providers, FourKites and Project 44, which Convoy already feeds its location data. The facility insights component of their new product, meanwhile, allows shippers and carriers to get performance metrics of facilities in which pickups or drop-offs for their load occurs. And then it's also going to roll out a benchmarking aspect of it. And let me see, both P44 and FourKites have acquired or built capability on facility visibility to tie into inbound and outbound freight flows. Now, again, it's always a good article. Anything Eric Johnson writes, I'm always going to fucking pick up and read because I love Eric Johnson and what he puts out there. So again, take it for what it is. You guys read it. Hit him up, joc.com. Another good article by my man Eric. Convoy wades into the visibility market with new tools. We're going to round out the show today. This was very, very encouraging headline that's out there. It's from ttnews.com. And it goes, traffic deaths decline for the first time since 2020. And I think this is fantastic. Although it always sucks to see that there's fatalities that are out there. It's just, unfortunately, part of the reality of the industry. And it declined in the second quarter, and that halting an almost 2-year rise. And, it was about just almost 10,600 people died in car crashes from April through June, which was down 4.9% in that same period in 2021. And it's good to see, although it's heartening to see that it's declined out there. The number of people dying on roads still remains a crisis. And I would agree with that. Like, that's a lot, but again, I also think that there is a lot of the amount of people that I see looking at their cell phones where they're driving is, distracted driving is fucking a massive issue that's out there. Let me see. It goes on, the rate of road fatalities during the first half of the year was 1.27 per 100 million vehicle miles driven, a slight decline as people spent more time behind the wheel. Still, total U.S. road deaths during the first 6 months inched up to 20,175. Again, it's good to see that it dropped as they were talking about out there, but it's also, it's good to see that it's improving, because again, we got to try and find good news where we can in today's day and age. And that article was from ttnews.com, talking about traffic deaths declining for the first time since 2020, essentially. So that's always good out there. Laura says she's been fortunate enough to work with some great dispatchers who keep her informed and up to date. Okay, I've worked with a few, maybe 2 or 3, but I'm fine with calling drivers and not pestering them too much. And I think that, Laura, to your point right there, it's all about how are you laying it all out there? Again, sometimes you got to just let the drivers drive. And if they're on tracking after they get loaded for the day, I don't know why we got to call them every 2 hours just to find out where, pull up their fucking e-logs if they're providing them, or pull up tracking. I think that at times as brokers, we sometimes make our life a lot harder than we need to. Sunny Sharma asks what tracking platforms everybody use. Garrett Bowers says Project 44, and he says it's been great for their LTL side as full as far truckload. They're using a combination of P44 and Samsara, and he says Samsara is better. And that's good. Honest reviews, and none of those companies sponsor the show at all. So everything is unbiased on that stuff that's out there. I'm biased towards Trucker Tools, though, as you guys know. They've been a long-time supporter of the show. But that's kind of it for today, you guys. Those are the articles. We did a market update and everything else. I'll have a guest back on tomorrow. And again, as always, if you guys have any questions, sales and operations related to the transportation industry, send me a DM and I'll answer them live on the show, or drop them in the comments, and we'll definitely answer them live on the show as well. Because again, you guys, I just want to see this industry improve. I'm a firm believer that instead of talking about the negatives of it, we should just fucking raise the standards across the board in this industry. And the more that we can do that, I think that the better off we'll be, and it'll drown out all the bad actors. And I personally think if we raise the standards and we operate in a way that everybody likes to talk about and you actually execute upon it, to me, I'm convinced that if we raise the standards, it's going to deter any bad actors from moving freight out there. So we can actually reward the hardworking men and women of this industry with what they need out there. But Laura, I'm not sure if Samsara tracks dray loads. It's an ELD provider, so I'm assuming if the dray driver has Samsara as a whole, it should. It's all right, Cody Miller. I'll give you a free pass that you were late. Good fucking morning to you. You better go back and watch the replay. No, I'm just playing, bro. And he goes on to say Samsara is amazing with their custom geo fences that's out there. But that's it for today, you guys. The Freight Coach Morning Show. Garrett Bowers, quality is not Quality is key, not just for the customer experience, but for our much needed workforce. Amen to that, man. But that's it for today, you guys. If you guys see value in what I do, share the show. That's all I can ask from you guys at the end of the day. I appreciate the support, the growing support, and the amount of people who are engaging in the comments and everything else on the live show. This is fucking great to see. You guys, we're not stopping. We're going to get even more bold with the content in the live show. Just wait. Just wait. We're going to get even more fucking bold. All right. I got some big announcements coming up here. But we're going to make shit happen. We're going to continue as Laura. Laura, I'm tired of the negativity as well. And we will fucking raise the standards of this industry, guys. The Freight Coach Morning Show, we're the top morning show in transportation. I appreciate you guys all so much. And we'll be